When you're trying to do something different, you're trying to do something new, there's a lot of uncertainty in that. And while that causes me to have a lot of anxiety, it also is what excites me in that I can do kind of anything, which goes against everything you know about a nonprofit or charitable organization. It was sort of an accident in some ways. I never intended to start a nonprofit organization. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never worked for a nonprofit organization before, and so it really was this leap of faith. I went to OCAD with the intention of becoming an art practitioner. So after the first year, I realized that criticism and curatorial practice was something that I really wanted to do. It was a way to take my interest in art history and mend it with my love for problem solving and my love for art.
Do you want to form an alliance with me?
Absolutely, I do.
Good, good.
2020 Arts essentially works between artists, charities, and funders, putting all of those pieces together to allow artists to put their work out there on a public platform and also get paid for it, to allow funders to feel like they are attaching their name to something that they believe in, that they're involved in the process of planning, and for the charities to be able to extend their donations further, to reach new audiences, and just to adapt to the digital landscape as it is today.
Check me out, check me out. Boom, bam, bam, bop. Bada bop, boom.
It also became very meaningful to me because the name 2020 Arts is this ode to my brother, because he was born on the 20th of his respective month, I was born on the 20th of mine, and so 2020 made sense, and I also felt at that time that I had this vision and clarity of vision, and so the name just stuck. A lot of people don't have the type of relationship with their siblings like I did with Jay, and so I feel very blessed to have had the 27 years with him that I did. He was a big inspiration to me growing up. We were only a year apart. He was creative in so many different ways, but really what he latched onto was music. In May of 2016, Jay passed away from an overdose. It was the worst thing that had happened to me up until that point, and probably still. And it made me realize that life is short, and it completely altered for me the meaning of art. I came up with the idea for Never Real and Always True couple of months after my brother passed away, which looking back on now, I have no idea how I managed to do that at that time. I approached Northern Contemporary and I asked them if they would be interested in hosting the event, and they said yes. It was initially a call for submissions scenario, but because of the tight timelines that I was working with, also working a full-time job at the time, I just started emailing people whose work in some way related to mental health stigma and managed to build a whole show out of it. We ended up selling about 70% of the show, which was pretty good. And a percentage of all those proceeds were donated to the Toronto Distress Centres. And so when it all came together, I don't even think I took a moment to appreciate what I had done and the fact that I had actually created something. Looking back now, it really was the first little spark of inspiration that led to everything else that 2020 Arts is. Please stand clear of the doors. As somebody who was working a full-time job at the time, taking the TTC to and from work on the subway, staring at the same subway mattress ads every single day, I thought this is an incredible space that is underutilized, that could be used for art.
I first met Megan Kee and learned about 2020 Arts through Katrina Thompson, a staff member that Megan had reached out to. She had sent through a proposal that came to me about something that was being called Art in Transit, Life on the Line at that time. And I could see right away the originality of the concept, where she was looking to draw out people's mental health experiences through artwork.
And when I first met Corey Bartlett and started to discuss my ideas for what Life on the Line would be, he was enthusiastic, he was motivated, his face lit up, and he was so unbelievably supportive with the idea that I just thought this is a good fit.
When we did eventually do the call out for artwork, we got such a huge response that we realized that this was going to be a larger event maybe than was initially intended.
We decided to put together a small little committee to figure out which works we were going to exhibit. We selected 20 works in the end. The works themselves needed to not only address mental health, be diverse in their aesthetic, but also we needed to sell them. So we partnered with a TTC shop and they sold the posters on their store.
The gallery event itself was packed. Everybody there was talking about mental health, which was incredible. The conversation was happening right there in front of us. Plus, we were selling a lot of original artwork, which was great for the artists. It made me think, like, you know, who is this Megan Kee? Like, how did she pull this off?
The works were exhibited across line 1 and line 2, but I kind of enjoyed the happenstance of them just popping up, 5 in a subway train, 5 in the next subway train, and so it was kind of random and spontaneous. I was sitting on the TTC, my headphones had died. I'm sitting in front of a poster from Life on the Line, and these two men walk out in front of me and start discussing the artwork in front of me, having this critical discussion about what it meant. Does it mean that he's kind of alone?
The next station is Broadview Station.
Even though there was a lot of great media coverage, that was the most impactful moment of the campaign for me.
Toronto nonprofit has embarked on a pretty interesting project here in the city. It's called 2020 Arts. The executive director is Megan Kee. Megan, great to have you on the show with me today. What are you guys doing to try and help raise some awareness and also breaking down the stigma that stands between people and possibly some life-changing help?
We want to exhibit artworks that reflect people's personal experiences with mental health. And art is a unique medium in that it has the ability to be able to communicate sometimes the incommunicable.
Losing a loved one to an overdose is very different from losing a loved one to anything else. Because when people ask you, how did your loved one die? There's this moment of reluctance and shame. And I didn't like the idea that I would leave this one impression of my brother with this person, and that was all that I would say about him, was the moment that he died and not about his entire life. Having worked with Jessica Okonski, I thought she would do a really great job at capturing the humanity behind the overdose crisis. The initial idea for Weathered was to have Jessica Okonski work directly with the families to take photographs of their loved ones' shoes who had lost their lives to an overdose. When COVID struck, we knew that it was no longer going to be feasible to physically step into people's homes for health and safety reasons, and so we thought about a submission-based process where people would take their own photographs of their loved ones' shoes, include items or mementos or a background that felt meaningful to them. So they were really a part of creating that memorial image.
It wasn't a choice and moral failing, and it can happen to anyone's child. And always the bottom line is, if you took away your judgment, you have to remember that a mom and dad has lost their child, and their judgment just adds pain to the loss.
I ended up asking my parents to submit a photograph of my brother's shoes, of which they still have many, and they included his skateboard, his childhood bunny, and it was really special for me to be able to highlight my brother's story. We were very lucky to get the screens at Yonge and Dundas. I'm very grateful to Branded Cities for giving us that space. The main screen that's right above the Eden Center highlighted some general statistics about overdose, directing people to the campaign online. And then the other 4 screens we used to tell specific stories and pull out some specific quotes and photographs and just really narrow in. To be able to walk out of Dundas Station for the first time, I've never felt more proud of something that I had done than in that moment, and I just thought Jay would be so blown away by this, and he would be so proud to see this all coming together. We received some great media coverage, but there were a few news outlets that refused to cover it because they did not agree with funding an overdose prevention site. And that was my first glimpse into how controversial these spaces can be and how much stigma still surrounds them. The second iteration of Life on the Line was again on the TTC. It was across 200 posters, so we increased our reach a little bit. It was focused specifically on line 1, so it had more of an exhibition feel because you can walk from one end of the train to the other. There were only 10 artists compared to 20, and it incorporated an educational element that the first one didn't.
The work I submitted for Life on the Line is titled The Fatherless Son, and it's a piece about perception. For me as a Black man, a lot of the times I'm not seen for who I am, and I feel like the same thing can happen with mental health.
We created videos and also asked them to write out their story. And we partnered with an organization called Unsinkable, who are a national storytelling mental health platform, which was big for us because it was another opportunity to reach a new audience and reach an audience that was already interested in mental health. And so we were sort of bringing the art side to things. And it was sort of a moment in time because we were all on Zoom screens, we were all on webcams, and so it's sort of been a perfect encapsulation of that moment. And that gave us a chance to just share a little bit of the story behind the work, and it helped contextualize the work, and I think it helped sell the works as well because you really got insight into the piece of art that you were buying.
Working on art and creating in general helps me sort through or keep at bay any mental health struggles I may be dealing with or any sort of anxiety. It naturally has also influenced the themes and concepts that I put into my work as well. And speaking with Megan, hearing her story and hearing all the work she's done opened my eyes to almost the idea of like making a ripple in a pond and that possibly leading to a wave, and not knowing who may be touched by you sharing your story and the impact it can have.
The ideal future for 2020 Arts is one where I'm able to take a little bit of a back seat, be more involved in just creatively planning and directing campaigns, and being able to just help small charities and organizations have impactful fundraising campaigns that open up their minds about ways that that can be done. There are so many other opportunities out there, and so to be able to help different organizations, be able to work alongside them and advocate alongside them is really the goal of 2020 Arts.